Hello, everyone. It's good to see you again. Welcome to the Teacher's Lounge with Patricia. So today's Teacher's Lounge is at a different time than we normally have the Teacher's Lounge. Why? Well, I decided that because I was always doing the Teacher's Lounge at the same time, there were some students who might not ever see a teacher's live event because of where they live and what time it is where they are. So I thought I'd try a time that was a little bit different, so hopefully some new people can see what we do on our Facebook Live events. So this is the Teacher's Lounge, and today we're going to be working on some vocabulary practice, and we'll work on some listening practice, okay? And the way that's going to work is like this. I'm going to tell some stories. You guys are going to listen very carefully. And at the end of each story, I have a few questions that I'll ask you guys. You guys can put in the answers. Take your best guess. It's okay if your answer is wrong. Sometimes that happens. Nobody is perfect. So that's what we'll be doing today. I'll be telling some stories. We'll be talking about some of the vocabulary that comes up while I'm telling these stories, and then we'll be talking about the questions at the end of the stories to make sure that you understood everything that I told you in the story. Okay, so now before we actually get started, we always do introductions first, okay? So I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to ask you guys to share a little bit of information about yourselves with me. So my name, most of you guys already know, is Patricia, and I live in the United States. I teach English as a foreign language online, and the specific question I'd like to ask you guys about today, because I always ask a specific question, today I would like to know, in your country, what side of the road do they drive on? What side of the road do they drive on in your country? Do they drive on the left or do they drive on the right? Now in the United States, we drive sorry about that. In the United States, we drive on the right side of the road. So in your country, what side of the road do they drive on? So the three things that I would like you guys to tell me today is, what is your name? What country are you from? And then the last question is, what side of the road do you drive on in your country? What side of the road do you drive on? The left or the right? Okay, so I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to introduce yourselves. You guys can put in your names, put in what country you're from, and tell me what side of the road they drive on in your country. And I have one quick announcement to make before we get started with our first story. Tazul, hi, how are you? It's good to see you. And let me see who else is here. Cami, hello, how are you? All right, guys, so the announcement I want to talk about first is the fact that I will be traveling next week. So next week, I won't be in the United States. I'll be in a different country, and I'm not going to have as much access to the internet. So some of the live events that I do, like this one right now, we're not going to have any of those on our Facebook page next week. But don't worry, the following week when I get back, we'll be back to our regular schedule with all the live events that I know you guys really love. Okay, so everybody that's here right now, Omar, hey, how are you doing, Omar? It's good to see you. Omar, you're from El Salvador. That's awesome. And Tazul, I see that you're from Bangladesh. So now all of you guys, tell me, what side of the road do they drive on in your country? All right, so next week, I'll be traveling, and we won't have as many live events, but there will still be other things going on this Facebook page to help you guys out. Good morning, Omar. So remember, you can still use the Facebook page, and don't forget about the YouTube channel. There are lots of resources on my YouTube channel that can help you guys out. So you guys can definitely do those things next week while I'm away. And If you guys want to know where I'm going to be next week, I'll let you know a little bit later. I'm not going to tell you right now. Okay, so I see we have a few people here and ready to get started with the story. So we're gonna get right into our first story. Before we do, if you're enjoying this live event, please give it a thumbs up. Yes, please give us a like or a heart or something like that. Okay, so this first story is about Patricia. It's about me. And this story takes place 5 years ago. Okay, this was 5 years ago. And at that time, I was still a teacher. I was teaching in a middle school. Okay, so a middle school is a school where students go when they're between the ages of usually 12 to 14 or 11 to 14. That's middle school. Okay, so 11 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old. Those are middle school kids. Omar, where am I from? I'm from the United States, Omar. So I was teaching in a middle school, and this particular school where I was working, they were very into camping trips. They loved to take kids on camping trips because they thought it was a great experience for them to be away from the city, away from technology, and out in the great outdoors. So this year, at the beginning of the school year, the plan was that we are going to take a 5-day camping trip with all of the middle schoolers. No parents go on this trip, only teachers. And I had never been on a camping trip with a bunch of middle schoolers before. This was a new thing for me. Omar, do I speak Spanish? Yes, hablo español. Farhan from Pakistan, drive on the left side of the road. How are you doing, Farhan? Okay, so this middle school was planning a 5-day camping trip right at the beginning of the school year, and this was a new thing for me. So this whole trip is planned, and we show up, and the idea for this camping trip is that it was going to be a canoeing trip. So a canoeing trip means that you get in a canoe every day and you canoe down the river to a new camping spot. You stay there for the night, enjoy that spot, and then the next day you get in your canoe and you go down to the next camping spot. You stay there for a day and then you get in the canoe the next day and you go to the next spot. So my first question for you guys is, do you know what a canoe is? Because that's maybe a little bit of an advanced word. Some of you might not know it. What is a canoe? If you know what a canoe is, you can put it in the comments right now. Help us out. Tell us, what is a canoe? Okay, and if you're not sure, don't worry, because I'm going to show you a picture in a little bit. So anyway, it's a 5-day canoeing trip with a bunch of middle schoolers. Now, the first day, everybody shows up to the meeting spot. We put all the kids in canoes and we have to head to the first camping spot. Now, the first day is always a little bit challenging. It's a little bit hard because you're not used to doing all that physical activity. So it was really tough. All right, so we got into the canoes, and in case you don't know what a canoe is, I have a picture to show you here. This is a canoe. So it's something that you can use on the water to get around. But this particular type of boat is called a canoe. We don't call it a boat, we call it a canoe. So it's the first day. We're having a hard time with this canoeing because a lot of us have not canoed for 3 hours before. That's really hard. And we finally get to the first camping spot. We were so relieved because we were exhausted at this point. So we get to the first camping spot. We have to pull our canoe out of the water so it doesn't float away while we're in our tents. And we send the kids up to this island to look for a good spot to put the tents. So we send the kids to go find a good spot. And the teachers are down by the canoes pulling them out of the water. And all of a sudden, from up where we sent the kids, we hear screaming. And we got a little nervous because it didn't sound like kids playing. Sometimes kids are playing, having fun, and they scream. But this sounded like someone was scared. So we got nervous and we ran up to see what was the problem. Why were kids screaming? Well, it turns out that the kids were screaming because this entire island was covered with millipedes. Millipedes. Now, what is a millipede? Oh, Tazul, you want me to spell canoe? Yes, I can spell canoe for you. This is canoe. And millipedes, I'll spell that one for you too. Millipede. What is a millipede? This one I'll show you a picture because I'm pretty sure you guys don't know what this is. A millipede is a bug or an insect that has lots of legs and it looks like this. Okay? So this is a millipede. There is a smaller bug that's called a centipede, but this was a millipede. And the millipedes on this island were probably, like if you look at this finger here, they were probably a little bit longer than that. They were about this long. That's big. And I'll tell you right now, I don't like bugs. I think they're disgusting. So everywhere on this island, there were millipedes all over the ground, all over the benches, the trees, everything. If you had a bag and you put your bag down on the ground, 5 minutes later, millipedes would be crawling all over it. It was gross. So all of these kids seeing these millipedes everywhere were screaming. They were freaking out. And I'll be honest with you, I know I'm a teacher and I'm supposed to set a good example for the kids, but I was freaking out too because I hate bugs. So we had to still stay on this island, even though there were millipedes everywhere. We set up our tents, and the whole time I was setting up my tent, my backpack was on my back. I refused to put my backpack down because I did not want millipedes crawling over it and into it, into my things. So we finally got all the kids settled into their tents for the night, and we went to sleep. I had a hard time sleeping that night because I just knew those millipedes were out there crawling around everywhere. But I survived the night. In the morning, I woke up and the sun is shining nice and bright. And I looked around the tent. There are no millipedes inside the tent. We made sure to close every door and window of the tent because we did not want millipedes in our tent. But when you looked around at the walls of the tent, you could see the shadows of the millipedes that were on the outside of the tent, and they were everywhere. Even thinking about it right now, it kind of gives me the creeps because these millipedes were crawling all over the place. Ugh. So, needless to say, I was so happy to be leaving that island the next day. I think we were all happy to leave that island. But as we were leaving, the one thing that we were all thinking was, what's going to be at the next island? Is it going to be just like this with millipedes crawling everywhere? So we headed off to the next camping spot with our fingers crossed, hoping there were no millipedes. And for the rest of the camping trip, no millipedes. It was awesome. So that first day was the worst, but after that, it was actually a lot of fun. So that was one of my recent camping trips with my students. Now, were you paying attention? Let's find out. So first of all, let me know if you guys have any questions about the story. If you have any questions, I can answer them, but I also have some questions for you. So my first question is, what kind of school was I working at? What kind of school was I working at? Now remember, I talked about the kids, how old they were. What do we call that level of school? Does anybody remember? What do we call that kind of school? My students were 11 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old. What do we call that kind of school? In the United States, most people call that a middle school. Middle school. So at the time, I was working in a middle school. Okay, the next question is, how long was the entire camping trip supposed to last? How long was the entire camping trip supposed to last? What do you guys think? How many days? How many days was that camping trip supposed to last? Anybody have a guess? Even if you're not sure, take a guess. That's fine. All right, guys. This camping trip, the whole camping trip, was supposed to be 5 days. 5-day camping trip. All right. So now, our next question is, how did we get to the camping spot? How did we get to the camping spot? Did we walk? Did we fly? Did we drive? How did we get from one camping spot to the next? How did we get to the camping spot? Tazul, 5 days. Very good. You got the answer to that one. How did we get to the camping spot? Do you guys remember this? We got to the camping spot by canoe. By canoe. Okay? So remember, guys, the word canoe can be used as a noun. This is a canoe. But canoe can also be used as a verb. So what did we do to get from one camping spot to the other? We canoed from one camping spot to the next. Okay? All right. So the next question is, why did the kids start screaming when we got to the first camping spot? Why did the kids start screaming when we got to the first camping spot? Who remembers that? That one is an easy one. Why were the kids screaming? The kids were screaming because of this. Do you guys remember what this is called? This is a millipede. Millipede. Okay, so the kids were screaming because there were millipedes all over the place. On the ground, you had to be careful where you stepped. If you put something on the ground, they would crawl all over it. The kids were screaming because of the millipedes that were all over the place. Okay, so the last question for this story is, how long did we stay on Millipede Island? How long did we stay on Millipede Island? The entire camping trip was 5 days. How long did we stay on Millipede Island? 1 day? 2 days? 3 days? 4 days? All 5 days? How many days did we stay there? We stayed on that island for 1 day, and that is it. And I was so glad that it was only 1 day, because it was torture for me to be on that island with bugs everywhere. Okay, guys, so that's it for the first story. Let me know if you have any questions. Does anyone have any questions about that first story? Tazul, fearful insects. Yes, because they were scared of the insects. Exactly. Or you could say they were afraid of the insects. Monica, hello, Monica. It's nice to see you. Monica is from Mexico. Welcome. Monica, you're just in time for our next story. All right, guys. So it seems like nobody has any questions right now. That's okay. If any questions come up, feel free to put them in the comments. So before we get to the next story, I want to make one more quick announcement. This announcement is about the watch party that I've been talking about. Now, some of you guys might have heard me talk about the watch party. It's something new that you can do on Facebook, and we're going to give it a try on our page. So the watch party basically lets us watch a video all at the same time. So right now you guys are watching me. When we do the watch party, instead of watching me, we'll watch a video, and we'll have conversation in the comments. So you guys can comment on the video, I can comment on the video and answer your questions. So we're going to do a watch party, not next week because I won't be in town, but we'll do it the last week of January, okay? So if you're looking for the opportunity to watch a TV show with native English speakers and ask questions during the show, definitely look out for the watch party. It will be on our calendar, all right? So let's get into the next story. This story takes place, 20 years ago. This story is from a long time ago, 20 years ago. I was in college at the time, okay? So when I was in college, one thing that I like to do a lot is community service. And community service it's a common phrase that you'll hear in English. Community service means things that you do in order to make your community better or to help your community. So I really liked community service. I liked, working in local communities, particularly with kids in the community. That's really where I first started teaching, was in programs like this. I would go to programs that happened after school for kids, and then I would go in with a group and we would help the kids with their homework. We would, take them to do fun things after school, and then we would take them home after that. So I like to do community service in college. And one summer, I decided to stay in Boston and spend the summer in Boston doing community service. So we lived in Boston, and we were working with a group of kids that were from a neighborhood in Boston. And the neighborhood that they were in was not an area where people make a lot of money. It's an area where most people don't have a lot of money. Their schools are not that great. So the options available to these kids are a little bit limited. So this program that we had was to help these kids to have something to do, something that would teach them things and prepare them for life in the future. So I spent one summer in Boston working with this particular group that was doing community service. Now, this group decided to take their kids where? On a camping trip. So I'm just going to tell you guys right now, camping is not really something that I enjoy that much, but all of these programs want to take kids on camping trips. So I've been on lots of camping trips with kids. Now, these kids from this neighborhood in Boston, when they found out we were going to go on a camping trip, they were so excited, so excited. Now, some of these kids were very young. The youngest kids were probably about 6 years old, and the oldest kids were probably about 12 years old. So some of these kids were really young, but they were so excited about going camping. They couldn't stop talking about campfire and the games that they would play out there, hiking in the woods, and making s'mores was something they were really excited about. Now, s'mores. What are s'mores? Do you guys know what s'mores are? If you know what s'mores are, tell me in the comments, what is s'mores? And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to show a picture. This is s'mores. Now see if you can see what it's made out of. Can you see what is in s'mores? So these kids were really excited about making s'mores. Now, if you couldn't see, I'll help you out. I'll explain what s'mores are. This on top, This is a graham cracker. A graham cracker. A graham cracker is sweet. It's about as sweet as a cookie, but it's called a cracker. It's a graham cracker. Now, this, the white part, that is marshmallow. Marshmallow. Okay? And the marshmallow is always toasted. So you need a toasted marshmallow or roasted. You can also say a roasted marshmallow or a toasted marshmallow. And then the last thing that you need for s'mores, you can see on the bottom here, that is chocolate. Okay, so s'mores is a dessert. Graham crackers on the outside, and on the inside, marshmallows, roasted marshmallows, and chocolate. And you make it into a sandwich, you squish it together, and then you eat it. And kids love this stuff. I mean, it's very sweet, so of course kids love it. But the other fun thing about s'mores is that it's perfect for camping because in order to roast a marshmallow, you need an open fire. So s'mores is very much associated with camping because you need an open fire to make the roasted marshmallow. So these kids couldn't wait to get started with this camping. Now, the other thing is that a lot of these kids had never been camping before. And also us, the counselors, remember, we were just college students and none of us had ever really been camping either. But I guess they decided, what's the worst that could happen? So we all went into the woods for this one night camping trip. It was just one night overnight. So what happened on this camping trip? Well, we got there and everything was great. Like I said, the kids were excited. They were running around the woods. They were excited to set up their tents. We got the campfire started. We did make the s'mores, so of course they were all happy after that. And it seemed like the best camping trip ever. It seemed really successful. Everyone was having a great time. Couldn't ask for more than that. So finally, we had to put all the kids to sleep, and then we went to sleep ourselves. We were almost done. All we had to do was wake up the next morning and take the kids home. Well, when I woke up, it wasn't morning. It was still nighttime. What woke me up? Something felt cold. Something made me feel really cold, and that's what woke me up. So I woke up and I was a little bit confused. I didn't understand why I was cold. And then I realized that it was raining outside really hard. It was pouring rain. And our tents were not made for rainy weather. So all of the rain was dripping right into our tents, and the entire floor of the tent was covered in water. Our sleeping bags, our backpacks, our clothes, everything was completely soaked. We had to get up in the middle of the night. It was maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. We had to wake up all of these little kids to check their tents, and everybody's tent was flooded. So then we had to make a decision. Do we stay in the woods all night in the rain with these kids sleeping in water, puddles of water? Or do we get all the kids back into the bus in the middle of the night with all of this stuff that was soaking wet and just go back home? We knew that would be disappointing to take the kids home in the middle of the night. They had been waiting so long for this trip, but we decided that to stay in the rain was not a good idea. Kids might start getting sick. It wasn't going to work. So we had to get everybody up. We had to pack up all the soaking wet gear, put it back in the bus, and we headed back to Boston. But on the way back, we decided that we didn't want to just take the kids home and cancel the trip. That would be a little bit sad. But we didn't really have anything else to do. There was nowhere else to go. except our apartments. So all of the counselors for this camping trip had apartments in the neighborhood. So we lived right near the kids. We saw the kids after the program. We saw the kids on the weekend. We saw their families. And we had one apartment where the male counselors lived and one apartment where the female counselors lived. So instead of taking all these kids home and disappointing them, we took all these kids to our 2 apartments. All the boys went to the guys' apartment and all the girls went to the women's apartment, and we had a giant sleepover. A sleepover. Do you guys know what a sleepover is? Tell me if you know what a sleepover is. We had a giant sleepover. So remember, our sleeping bags were still wet, but we had all of the kids in our apartments. We got to spend the night together and still have fun together. We all slept on the floor in the living room, and some of the kids were out in the hallway because we didn't have a lot of space, but we still had a fun time. So the sleepover, just so you guys know, is what we call it in English when people gather in one person's house and they all sleep there. That's a sleepover. And it's a very common thing for kids to do. Obviously, kids go to their friend's house and have a sleepover, or for your birthday party, you might invite all your friends over for a big sleepover. Well, this was the biggest sleepover that any of these kids had ever seen because there were about 15 kids in each apartment. But at least we had a good time and we didn't completely cancel the camping trip. So I think it all turned out well in the end. So that was actually my very first camping trip. Pretty interesting. Okay, so now that you've listened to the story, here are the questions. I hope you were listening. So my first question is, where was I living at the time of this story? Where was I living? What city was I living in? You guys know I'm from the United States, but what city was I living in? Anybody remember? And while I wait for answers for that, I'm going to type in the word s'mores just so you guys can see how that word is spelled. Okay, so for those of you who aren't sure, I don't remember, I was living in Boston. I was living in Boston, which is in the state of Massachusetts. Okay, the next question is, what season was it? What season was it when this story took place? Was it spring, summer, fall, winter? What season was it? Who remembers what season it was? Okay, if you have a guess, just put it in the comments. What season was it when this story took place? Okay, so if you don't remember, it was summer. It was summer. Okay, so this story took place in the summer. All right, so our next question is, when the kids first found out about this camping trip, how did they feel? How did they feel about going on this camping trip? What do you guys think? Who remembers that? How did all these kids feel about going on a camping trip? Happy? Sad? What do you think? All right, so if you don't remember, these kids were excited, really excited. They were so excited to be going on a camping trip. Okay, so the next question is, what food were these kids especially excited about making? What was the specific food that they couldn't wait to make on this camping trip? All right, so we talked about this food that's associated with camping. It looks like this. So what is this food called? These kids were really excited about making this food on the camping trip. All right, so I just typed it in a couple of minutes ago. This food is called s'mores. It's called s'mores. It's made with graham crackers and marshmallows and chocolate. Okay, so these guys couldn't wait to get on this camping trip so they could make s'mores. Our next question is, something woke me up in the middle of the night. Something woke me up in the middle of the night. What woke me up? What was it that woke me up in the middle of the night? Who remembers that? If you remember, or if you have a guess, go ahead and put it in the comments. What woke me up in the middle of the night? Okay, in the middle of the night, I was woken up by water. Water. Oops. Sorry about that, guys. So in the middle of the night, I was woken up by water because it was pouring and our tents were not made for rainy weather. All right, now here's our last question. The last question is, what did we decide to do instead of taking all the kids back to their houses in the middle of the night? What did we decide to do instead? What did we decide to do? Who remembers that? We didn't take the kids back to their houses, but we didn't stay in the woods either because it was pouring rain and we weren't prepared for that. So what did we decide to do instead? We had a giant sleepover. So instead of taking all of the kids home to their houses, we took all of the kids home to our house. We took all the kids to our house. Everybody picked a spot on the floor on their wet sleeping bag, and we had a big sleepover at the counselor's house. So that was a lot of fun for the kids. All right, guys, so those are our 2 stories for today. Okay, now, Tazul, I lost my attention sometime. How to improve? When you say you lost your attention, Tazul, what do you mean? Do you mean when I'm telling the story, you stop paying attention? Is that what you mean? Explain your question a little bit, okay? And I'll help you out with that. Okay, so that was our last story for today, but our Facebook Live is not done yet, okay? So a couple more things that I want to mention to you. First, I just want to announce that we do have classes that are scheduled for the month of February. Okay, so if anyone is interested in online English classes, all you have to do is go to my website, ivyleagueenglish.com. There's lots of information about the different classes that I offer. Okay, and the other thing, again, I just want to remind you guys that next week I'll be out of town. So we won't have any live events next week, but remember, you can still use the Facebook page, and don't forget about my YouTube channel, okay? You can use the YouTube channel to help you as well. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, I posted a brand new video, okay? So if you haven't been to the YouTube channel recently, definitely take a look. There's a brand new video there, and that video is also for listening practice, okay? So if you're looking for more listening practice, definitely check out the YouTube channel. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about today is my trip next week. So I already mentioned to you guys that next week I'll be traveling to Jamaica. And the reason that I'm going to be traveling to Jamaica is that my grandmother is having a birthday party. So it's my grandmother's birthday. Now, here's a question for you guys. Does anybody want to take a guess? How old do you think my grandmother is? How old do you think my grandmother is? Her birthday is next week. My grandmother's birthday is next week. How old do you think she is? Take a guess. I know you guys don't know my grandmother, but take a guess. How old do you think she is? And you can put that in the comments. How old do you think my grandmother is? So next week I'm going to Jamaica. And the party is on Sunday, but after that, I'm just going to be relaxing a little bit. I'm going to stay for a few extra days, so that'll be nice. But first of all, I'm just going to let you guys know my grandmother, in case you were wondering, She is turning 106 years old next week. My grandmother is 106 years old. Shetu, 70 years old. That's a good guess. My grandmother is a lot older than that. That's a good guess though. Okay, so next week I'm going to Jamaica. So the question I just wanted to let you guys answer for me today is, one, do you know where Jamaica is? Have you ever heard of Jamaica? Let me know if you know where Jamaica is, or maybe you've been to Jamaica. If you've been to Jamaica, definitely let me know. So, do you know where Jamaica is? And let me know if you have any questions about Jamaica. Because next week, while I'm there, if you have particular questions, I can show you the answers. So maybe you have questions about the fruits that are in Jamaica, or maybe you have questions about, I don't know, something else, the food in Jamaica, or what the beaches are like in Jamaica. Let me know what kind of questions you guys have, because next week while I'm there, I can post things that will answer your questions. Monica, maybe 60 or 70. Good guess, guys. You guys must think that I'm really young. Because I think that I look a little bit younger than I really am. So yes, my grandmother is not 60 or 70. She's actually 106 years old. So again, if you guys have any questions, anything you're curious about, let me know, because I'd be happy to post things to answer your questions. Now, the other thing I want to ask you guys right now is, what was that other question I was going to ask? Oh, I remember now. What English questions do you have? Okay, so we did our listening practice. We learned a few vocabulary words. We did some questions to see if we understood the story. But now I just want to let you guys ask any questions that you have about English. Like Tazul, you asked a question a little while ago and I didn't understand your question completely. So if you want to explain a little bit more, you can. You were talking about it's hard to pay attention or something like that. Okay. And anybody else who's watching, if you have a question, any questions about English, go ahead and post them in the comments so I can see it and then I can answer for your question for you. I'll answer it right now. Shetu, oh my goodness. Yes, my grandmother is pretty old. I'm assuming that that's what you're talking about. Yes, 106 years old. Isn't that amazing? I hope I live to see 106 years old. Here's the other thing about my grandmother. She's still pretty active. For a woman who's 106, she's still having a birthday party. She still walks around by herself. She still hears pretty well. Her hearing is not the best, but she can hear pretty well. She can still see pretty well. She has glasses, but she can see pretty well. And she is definitely, I'm going to use a tricky word here. She's cognizant, which means that her brain is still functioning well. She still understands what's going on around her. She still recognizes all of her family members, and she has a lot of family members. I have a big family. She still recognizes everyone. So my grandmother is doing well for a woman who's been alive for 106. So yes, Shetu, oh my goodness, 106. Anyway, English questions. Any questions you guys have about English? Maybe I used a vocabulary word today that you didn't understand. You can go ahead and ask that question now. Maybe you heard a word or an expression somewhere else and you want to ask the question. That's fine. If you have any grammar questions, you can go ahead and ask those now. Any questions that you guys have about English, I would be happy to answer those questions for you now. So I'll give you another minute. Okay, I see something. Oh, Tazul, amazing. Oh, amazing that my grandmother is alive at 106. Yes, my grandmother is amazing. And the Guinness Book should see her. Yes, so for those of you who are not familiar with what Tazul is talking about, The Guinness Book. The Guinness Book is, I think it's an American book, and the full title is the Guinness Book of World Records. So the Guinness Book of World Records is a book where they keep a list of people who have done amazing things, like the tallest person in the world, the tiniest person in the world, the person with the highest IQ, the person who's traveled around the world more times than anyone else. That's the Guinness Book. So Tazul is saying they should call my grandmother because most people don't live to be 106 years old. So yes, my grandmother is very lucky, and we're lucky, of course, to still have our grandmother at 106 years old. So yes, let me know, guys, if you have any questions about English. We still have a few minutes here. Actually, we have about 15 minutes. We have plenty of time. So let me know if you have any questions about English. Okay, I'd be happy to answer those questions now. Now, here's the other question I'd like to ask you guys. And this is a way that you guys could help me out. Okay, so this Facebook page that we have here is pretty new. I only started it a couple of months ago. And I've tried lots of different things on the Facebook page. We do these live events, and there are some students that really love that. I use YouTube videos on the Facebook page. Some people really enjoy that. I've posted pictures with questions and things like that. People enjoy that. My question is, what do you guys think is the most helpful on the Facebook page? Do you find the live events to be the most helpful? Do you find the YouTube events to be the most helpful? Are there other things that we should do on our Facebook page that would be helpful to you guys? So you guys can give me some feedback. Let me know, what do you like about our Facebook page now? And what would you like to see on the Facebook page? Maybe there's something that we don't do on our Facebook page now that you think we should do. Okay, so if you have any suggestions of things we should do on the Facebook page, let me know. If there are things that we are doing on the Facebook page and you really like them and you want to see more of that, let me know. Okay, because that helps me plan what to do on the Facebook page in a way that's more helpful for you guys. Instead of guessing at what you guys would like to see on the Facebook page, I would love for you guys to just tell me, what would you like to see on the Facebook page? Then I can give you exactly what you want. Tazul, what do you have for me? I see your comment. I want to stay with you every conversation. How is it possible without Facebook Live? Besides, this is helpful for me. Okay, so Tazul, you're saying that these live events are helpful for you, and you would like to see more of these? Okay, the first thing I would say to you, Tazul, is this is not the first Facebook Live event that we've had. So if you go to the Facebook page and you go to the section that's called videos, okay? Go to the section that's called videos, and you will find that there are other videos called Teachers Lounge. And those videos are a lot like this. We might talk about different subjects and things like that, but it's live just like this. So you might find that helpful, Tazul. But in the future, we'll definitely do more Facebook Live events like this. Also, you were saying, how is it possible without Facebook? Good question. I don't know how this is possible without Facebook. That's why I use Facebook, because I don't know any other place where you can do this live. The YouTube channel is another place where I post videos, but they're not live, so I'm not seeing people's comments as I'm making the video. So those videos are a little bit different, but still very helpful. At least that's what students tell me. They're still helpful. So you can also check out the YouTube channel, Tazul, if you haven't seen that, okay? And Barry, hello, Barry. I hope you're still here. Barry, welcome to the group, okay? So English questions. Let me know if you guys have any English questions. Suggestions for our Facebook page. Let me know if you have any suggestions for our Facebook page. All right. And for our last 10 minutes of this live event, let's talk about this. So, let me see. How should I do this? Give me 1 second, guys. Just let me think for a minute. Okay, so let's do this. For the last 10 minutes of class, let's play a game, okay? So this game is gonna require you to be a little bit fast, okay? And I play this game in class with a lot of my students. Some of them love it. Some of them don't like it that much, but the reason why they don't like it is because they feel a lot of pressure because I'm asking them to think fast. So I'm gonna ask you guys to think fast, okay? This is called the synonym game, okay? The synonym game. And I'm gonna type it in because the word synonym is a little bit tricky, okay? So this is the synonym game. Thank you for suggestions. And what do I do? Tazul, what do I do as in for work? I teach English. This is what I do. I'm an English teacher. I teach English classes online using the computer. So I teach students from all over the world. Okay, so the synonym game. I hope you guys are ready. Get your fingers ready to type. The synonym game works like this. I'm going to give you a word. It'll be a very common word in English. And your job is to type in another word that means the same thing or is very close in meaning, okay? So I'm going to give you a very common word, and your job is to type in synonyms for that word. So other words that mean the same thing as that word, okay? So are you guys ready? The first word that I would like you to type a synonym for is the word good. G-O-O-D, good. You must know another word that means the same thing as good or means almost the same thing as good. So type them in now, fast. What synonyms can you come up with? What synonyms? Barry. Oh, Barry, did you just invite someone? Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. By the way, everybody, don't forget to give this video a like. Okay, synonyms for the word good. I'm going to give you guys 10 seconds. Try to type fast, okay? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it. That's all your time, guys. All right. Synonyms for the word good. It seems like you guys need a little help with this one. So let me give you some examples. Oh, Carolina came up with great. Excellent. That's a very good synonym for the word good. Shetu, well. That is a good guess, Shetu, but here's the thing. Well and good are not synonyms because they're not the same part of speech. They're not the same part of speech, Shetu, okay? Good is an adjective. Well is an adverb. So good and well are not synonyms, even though that's a really good guess and a lot of students think that, but unfortunately, well is not a synonym. Good, great is a synonym. Barry, excellent, that's also a synonym. Perfect, yes, that's a synonym too. How about amazing, wonderful, awesome, fantastic, stupendous. Do you guys know some of those? Okay, Jono. Hello, Jono. Welcome to the group. We're playing the synonym game. Okay, guys. Those were pretty good. I like that. All right, so now let's do another one. Okay, get your fingers ready. You're going to have to type fast. The next word that I would like you to think of a synonym for is bad. B-A-D, bad. Okay, it's a very common word. You must know other words that mean the same thing as bad. So, come on, let's see some synonyms. What do you have? What do you have? Bad. What means the same thing as bad? I'll give you guys another countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, bad. Synonyms for the word bad. And, oh, it looks like I missed a question. Hold on, let's see. Tazul, God means Lord. Oh, Tazul, I think maybe you misunderstood the word. The word I was looking for synonyms for was good, not God. Okay? Carolina, awful. Very nice, Carolina. Awful is a great synonym for the word bad. Bad and awful mean pretty much the same thing. Awful really means very bad. So it's more intense than the word bad. You can say, I had a bad day, or you can say, I had an awful day. That means really bad. All right, other synonyms for the word bad. Foul. Foul. Shetu, that's a good one. Foul can mean bad. Like, it's very common to hear a smell described as foul. So a foul smell is a bad smell. So foul, very good. All right. And Tazul, devil. So I see how those words are related. I see why you would think that. But again, you have to think about parts of speech, okay? Parts of speech. Is it a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb? So the word bad is what part of speech? The word bad is an adjective, just like the word good. But the word devil is a noun, right? A devil, that's a noun. So an adjective and a noun can't be synonyms because they're different parts of speech. So Tazul, good guess. I understand why you thought that. You're close, but not exactly. But that's okay because we learned a little something. Now, other synonyms for the word bad. Does anybody have any others? Shetu. You're laughing at me. All right, other synonyms for the word bad. So far we saw awful and foul, okay? Other words that mean the same thing as bad: terrible, horrible. Let's see, what's another one? Those are probably the most common ones. Bad, awful, terrible, horrible. Trying to think of one more for you guys. Let's see if one of you guys can come up with one more. One more synonym for the word bad. And Tazul, I see another question for you. Good means auspicious. Good means auspicious. Are those the best synonyms? Let me take a look. I'll be honest with you, Tazul. Auspicious is it's a word in English. It's not very commonly used. You won't hear that word in conversation a lot. Auspicious is not exactly the same as good. It is an adjective. It has a positive meaning, but you wouldn't hear someone say, I had an auspicious day. You wouldn't really say that. You might say, I had a good day, I had a great day, I had an awesome day, a fantastic day. But auspicious, you probably wouldn't hear like that. All right, but all very good suggestions, guys. Okay, we're down to one more minute. Okay, so last chance. Any last English questions that you guys would like to ask? I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. I'm also just going to take a look and make sure I didn't miss anyone's comments or questions from earlier. Haha, Carolina, I like your little characters. Those are funny. All right, guys, any more questions for me? Anything else you'd like to ask? Okay, if not, I'll just remind you guys to keep a lookout on our Facebook page for the upcoming watch party. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, next week when I'm out of town, make sure you use the Facebook page so you can get lots of practice with your English, and use the YouTube channel. Those will help you out too. Okay, I'll be in Jamaica next week, so we won't have any live events, but you'll see some interesting pictures and videos from my time in Jamaica. Maybe I'll introduce you to my grandmother. All right, guys, so that's it for today. Remember, if you're looking for online English classes, you can visit my website, ivyleagueenglish.com. And that's it. I hope you guys have a very good day or a very good night. And I'll see you at the next Teacher's Lounge. Take care, guys.